Happy midday on a Thursday. This East Coast heat wave has subsided, thank God. but what never dies down heat-wise is the W. And it's been a while since we've done one of these shows. Boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Welcome into WNBA Hoop Streams presented by Google. I am Taylor Tannebaum, Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo, and Ari Chambers with me today to talk all things WNBA. Before we dive deeper into the conversation, because the season is in full swing right now, let's take a look back at some memorable moments thus far.
Thank you guys for being a part of this championship journey with us. We got to run it back.
The track down to find Natasha Cloud. They take and count the bucket. Cloud on a run of her own. More movement. Asia Wilson finding a lane and getting it. And one.
I take full accountability for that, and now we got to go back to the drawing board and figure it out.
Collier looking like the MVP.
The numbers don't lie. Our team not as good as we is. If she don't show up the way she show up every game, come on, man. Everybody got to see it. It ain't rocket science.
Year 2 of Caitlin Clark.
This was the vision, right, for the Indiana Fever in the offseason, to bring in these pieces, multiple players who can score. It's a team that can contend for a championship.
I think this is really smart to shut Caitlin down right now, because this is going to be a long season.
For Phoenix, there's a big three in town, and they look good.
Golden State, Valhalla, Natalie Nakase, I was unfamiliar with your game. You guys have really showed up and showed out.
If you're not familiar with Alicia Gray's game, you just haven't been paying attention. They've been a fun surprise for an Atlanta City that is starved to be relevant in basketball.
All right, we love talking season before the season even tips off, because all of us have our predictions, what we think is going to happen, who's going to be great. For instance, we knew Fee was going to be great. That has come to fruition. There's also some surprises. And if we were playing like a game of bingo, I don't think any of us would have looked at our bingo card and been like, on that bingo card would be DeWanna Bonner would be waived after only playing 9 games with the Indiana Fever. But here we are. Kind of a surprise. And the cliff notes for you, if you haven't been paying attention this week, she missed the Fever's last 5 games with quote-unquote personal reasons, and then it came out that she really didn't want to return, so the team explored some options and wound up waiving DeWanna Bonner, the 16-year veteran, yesterday. So her next destination, TBD, kind of. We'll get to that in a second. So let's dive deeper into DB and the situation right now. Ari, I want to know from you where you were when you found this out and what your initial reaction was.
I was in the car and got the notification, but you know, my initial reaction was I kind of felt it coming. Whenever you have somebody who has her championship pedigree that was added to the team for the championship pedigree, underutilized in the way she was, I just think it wasn't the right fit. And she knows that she doesn't have a lot of basketball ahead of her. A lot of basketball is behind her. And if I'm DeWanna, I want to go out strong. I want to go out swinging, letting people know that I'm still on top. I'm still at the top of my game. Now, mind you, she's not washed up by any means. She has so much basketball left in her. So why not go to a program that will allow her to showcase that?
What did you think when you first heard this news, Rebecca?
I was most surprised at the fact that she was waived and that there wasn't a trade involved,
right.
That Indiana didn't get something in return. Of course, her DeWanna's salary was a big part of that. And then you look at the Indiana Fever, and what's interesting sort of about the move is they were built in their roster to be able to absorb this. They have a lot of front court players. In DeWanna Bonner's absence, Sophie Cunningham had stepped up, had been playing well. Brianna Turner had been getting some more minutes as well. This also opened up cap space, and what did we see yesterday? They signed Ari McDonald. And this is a player who played 3 games for them during an injury exemption, and she was outstanding. 11 points a game in that stretch. She was efficient from the floor. They needed more backcourt depth. This also opens up salary that at some point they can sign a 12th player as well. So as far as how it impacts the Indiana Fever on the floor, I think they will be fine with it. A little bit of a surprise of how it all went down and with her playing so few games.
And her price tag was huge, right? A $200,000
Yes.
check. The Indiana Fever will have to pay her $72,000 for the games that she did play. But trading her would be hard. It would be hard because she's worth so much.
Right.
A lot of times with a hard cap, with the current CBA as it stands, it's going to be difficult to be able to weave her in, especially when teams are clicking in their own ways right now. And now I'm just interested to see how they're going to be able to get her to a landing spot where she wants.
Yeah, and that's part of it too, is she's going to be on waivers and is available to be picked up tomorrow. Now, what ends up happening? Is she going to go to a preferred destination? What are you hearing right now in terms of what's next for DB?
Well, I do know that it probably would be to her favor to play with her fiance in Phoenix. Now, Phoenix just made a major move, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, they waived Megan McConnell. So their roster was at 12.
Right.
They waived Megan. They're down to 11. So at least they do have a roster spot if they want to pick someone up.
And so that opens up room for a little bit more cash in her pocket as well. And so just knowing that Phoenix, though, I'm looking at them. They seem like a little bit more well-oiled machine now that everybody's coming back healthy. They have a good rhythm and swing of things. So adding DeWanna to that mix, I'm not quite so sure how she will fit in, if it's going to fulfill her, what I believe her desire to show out and show her ability. I don't know what the room is looking like for that.
And then keep in mind that DeWanna Bonner is a free agent, and she can sign for whatever amount that she wants to sign for.
Right.
So all a team would need is just over $50,000 in cap room if she was willing to sign at a veteran minimum. She's already made the 70 plus. She's already made the 70 plus that she's gotten from Indiana, but prorated. All a team needs in cap room is the $50,000.
Yep.
Phoenix has 78 plus the money that they will have now from that freed up roster spot. So it could end up, certainly it's a place she can fit financially. Then it just is a matter of, as you talked about, the fit, the playing time, all those sorts of things.
And Annie Costable reported that teams have been instructed not to get involved so much because she does want the landing spot to be Phoenix.
And she deserves that as a 16-year veteran, like you said, in the back end
she's
of
a
her
free
career.
agent. It is completely her choice where she's going to end
Absolutely.
up.
And look, she did put out a statement thanking the Indiana Fever, and then she did take to social media today, because that's just what we do in this day and age. And obviously, she's still in the gym, she's working, and she's ready for what her next destination will be. But here's what she said: a quitter? Nah, never been that, but when the time comes, let's just make sure the apologies are just as loud as the disrespect. In due time, DB with a little crown emoji.
Taylor, you know, when the picture is black and white, she means business. It's like the Michael Jordan meme, and I took that personally. DeWanna Bonner took that personally. Whenever you turn something black and white, let me let you know it's serious business.
See, I didn't know that. I'll keep that in mind in the future
I'm here for your
posts.
social media. Social media.
Pretty soon, we're going to see Rebecca's post in black and white. We're going to wonder what's going on. What is next for the Fever, though, post DeWanna Bonner, Rebecca? Big picture.
Well, number one, we found out today that Caitlin Clark is not playing in their game tonight. They're also supposed to play a back-to-back, second half of a back-to-back tomorrow because she's dealing with a groin injury. So that's number one. They're in the middle of a very tough 3-game and 4-day stretch. They were at Seattle, suffered the loss out there, or got the win out there, and then they've got Dallas. The home game tonight, and then at Dallas. So that's the big question for Indiana. You know, it's huge that they were able to sign Ari McDonald. Aaliyah Boston has been playing extraordinarily well. Keep in mind, when she is on the floor, though, without Caitlin Clark, she gets like half as many field goal attempts. Her percentage is ridiculous, playing really well. But I think the biggest question for Indiana right now is simply, when will Caitlin Clark return? Because they are a very different team with her on and off the floor.
And even that, the combination with Caitlin and Aaliyah, they are the second most productive duo in the WNBA right now, just behind Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins. And they've assisted 40 times on each other. And so just knowing that productivity is coming to a pause. We saw what happened when Caitlin was injured beforehand, and that those losses that they accumulated then. This is not what you want if you're the Indiana Fever.
Yeah, and they play completely differently. They use Aaliyah more kind of as a hub, you know, getting the ball at the free throw line area, passing out to other players. And it's fair to acknowledge, Caitlin Clark was in a slump like we have never seen throughout the course of her career in the last 3 games in terms of her productivity from three. 1 of 23 from the three-point line. So, you know, how does her injury impact that? She came back, obviously, great after she sat out those 5 games from her prior injury. But it's really going to, you know, be interesting to keep our eyes on the Indiana Fever and what they're going to look like as they finish out to this tough stretch.
Yes, so we will keep an eye on Caitlin Clark and that left groin injury. They do play the Sparks tonight, and as Rebecca alluded to, back-to-back tomorrow against Dallas as well. And we will also continue to eye DeWanna Bonner and where she goes next. Now, for the Indiana Fever, DeWanna Bonner was not the only free agent acquisition this offseason. They also acquired Sydney Colson to the team. The 2-time WNBA champ caught up with our Ari Chambers.
Sydney Colson, the super vet, the grandma of the Indiana Fever. First of all, I'm glad you made time for us. You've been popular in the past few years, you know.
You know, I always got time for you. You know that.
I love that so much.
Grandma is crazy, though.
Oh, but you are. Anyway, knowing that you're the grandma of the team or the super vet of the team, a lot of people see you in the spotlight in a very fun and funny way. But what is your contribution to the Fever team this year?
I think it's the same that it's been like when I was with the Aces, honestly, just like a veteran leadership, like talking to people, whether I'm in the game or not, helping people see what's going on, really trying to impact the game on the defensive end and give us like a lot of energy in a burst when I come in. And then just, trying to create for others, getting people the ball where they need it, and just trying to keep our team like from getting too high or too low. We've had a stretch of losses at some points, like, some points where it's been wins in a row, and we're still finding our way. We've had people be out, we've had injuries. There's been a lot of adversity really since the start of the team for us and since the start of the season for us. And so me and a lot of older players are just trying to keep people like composed.
Yeah. How do you establish discipline and maintain composure amidst all that adversity? Because not only do you have the things on the court, but there's so much outside noise surrounding this franchise.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been like basketball is like a microcosm of life. And it's like whoever you are in moments of adversity is usually who you are outside of the court too. And so I try to not change who I am, and we try to tell the rest of the team, and that's what the coaches are trying to let us know. Like, adversity can suck sometimes, but it's also when you can get that grit that you need to come out of a group that maybe wasn't there before. You start to really see if you got the character, if you have the drive, and all of the other things that it takes to ultimately win a championship. And, we have a couple of people on our team who've been in championship environments. And so we know what it looks like, and we just got to keep, pushing in the same direction together and being energy givers and not takers.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the championship pedigree because you come with it, two-time champ. You already know what it is. And they've added these pieces between you and Natasha Howard that knows what it takes to be a champion. So what from your team do you see, what traits from your team do you see that can contribute to that championship? Why this year?
I think that it's the way that I see us starting to gel in like the good moments and us having longer stretches of doing things properly, and also who we're starting to be when adversity hits, and then just people's attitude and work ethic on the days where it's tough to show up, like on practice days, after losing several in a row, like how is your attitude towards the rest of the team? Like, are you still high-fiving the same? Are you still communicating with people the same way? Or are you a little more negative because things are not going well for you personally? Like, what does that look like? And then the work that people will continue to get in even after losses is like you still got to stay the same whether you're winning or losing. If you like getting shots up after you win, like you need to like getting them up when we're losing too.
And you're a positive force, and wherever you go, you leave a legacy. And we saw the reunion for you and the Aces last week. How did that feel?
It was great. It was great. I mean, that organization changed my career. It was a time where I thought that I was out of the league, and when we had Athletes Unlimited in Vegas, and Becky and Nikki came to the game and gave me that opportunity to be on the team in 2022, like my career was revived in a sense, and missed them, of course, and it was just time for us to go on our separate journeys. But it was really sweet what they did, and Chris is my guy, and he put together a really good video with his team, and me and him were there in 2019 together, and that was when a lot of awesome things happened for me too, just like off the court wise, just with my personality, like him starting to highlight it more with like the Lady Aces stuff, and it just,
I remember those chants like it was yesterday.
Yeah, man. So really like what Chris did for me there and what we did together and what our team had was really special, and it even helped for like, my off-court brand too. And so it was an amazing time, and I miss them, and I love them.
Go ahead and give it 100% tonight. Good luck.
Thank you.
Shooter show. Shout out to my choir.
Thank you, Ari. Good to see you.
I loved your question about leaving a legacy wherever she goes, because it's true. And Syd is so authentically Syd. She can really do that in Indiana as well, just like she did in Vegas.
Yeah, everybody sees her as this goofy personality, but she really is great for the locker room in more aspects than humor. The emotion came from her because she got a second chance at this. She said that they saw her at Athletes Unlimited in 2022. She thought she was done with the WNBA. So to be given a second chance, get 2 championships since then, I mean, she just values her time here, and you can tell by the way she plays.
This past weekend, I was able to do the Indiana, that game. They showed the video, and talking to Becky Hammond before the game, and she was talking about what a great connector Syd was in terms of between the bench and the starting unit. So not only in the locker room, but also on the basketball court, how you need to have that connection between the 2 units, and how great Syd was at that.
You're a fan of the W, impossible not to be a fan of Sydney Colson. All right, but for all the kids out there, I know school is out right now, and you're like, Taylor, it is summertime. We don't want to learn anything, but guess what? Summer school is in session here in Bristol, Connecticut. You hear the bell? Remember when they used to make you do this? I don't know.
Like,
probably not.
Did you have to do line practice when you got in trouble?
Yeah, you stand in line.
Yeah.
Line practice.
Yeah, you just stood there and were quiet? Okay.
Hands behind your back.
Yeah.
They probably just send you a text now to let you know,
Taylor,
go to your next class.
Right.
That's South Florida schooling right there.
Anyway.
All right, so I have 2 brilliant minds with me here. So we're going to teach you a thing or 2 today, and we're going to go through some of the teams in the league right now and where they stand at this point in the season. So, Rebecca, let's start with the defending champions in the New York Liberty. They're 11-3 on the season. Those 3 losses coming in the last week and a half. And last night, I was on the edge of my seat watching that game in the Bay. Like, look, the Valkyries were a 3-pointer away from Kate Martin for tying the Liberty and taking them into overtime. Where do they stand right now, the Liberty?
Well, not only when you look at the New York Liberty, but when you look at any teams, and if they're surprising you in any way, either with how much success they're having or the struggles that they're having, there are 2 factors you always have to take into consideration. One is the team's schedule. And for example, the New York Liberty start the season 9-0. Well, they had the easiest strength of schedule to start the season. Now, from June 16th on to All-Star, the New York Liberty will have the toughest strength of schedule. The other thing you have to look at with a team, including the New York Liberty, is injuries. When they started that stretch where they lost 3 of 4 games, it's not an injury, but Leonie Fevish is overseas with her national team. And they're also without Jonquel Jones, and they're still without Jonquel Jones. So when you're looking at a team, look at their schedule. And finally, once New York kind of gets through this tough road stretch, they're in the middle of a 4-game road stretch right now, you look at what they have in July. 8 straight home games. The New York Liberty, from the start of July, do not have to leave to hit the road until after their game on July 27th. So this would be a stretch where you would say, all right, they might have a tough road schedule or a tough schedule in terms of their opponent. This could be a place to really create some separation because they have a really favorable home slate.
And outside of the skill set, the crowd, I'm looking at their schedule. You're right. All those home games are to their benefit. They thrive off the energy in Barclays. If you've ever been to Barclays, that arena is crazy. And they have the type of players that perform for that home team. Also, I love that you touched on Leonie being out because overseas play is going to be increasingly difficult for teams to maintain the same composure and the same results as they had in the beginning of the season. But I'm shocked that the Valkyries haven't been more impacted than they have been. They have a team full of international players.
Yeah, they're just like slot them in and out.
And it's been
say
working.
goodbye everyone and say welcome to the next.
We were skeptical.
We were.
Okay, sorry.
Well, no,
sorry.
don't get. We're going to talk about them
Yeah.
because they've been such a wonderful surprise as an addition to the WNBA this season. But another interesting storyline has been the Las Vegas Aces. Now back at 500 after a win last night. They got a second half of a back-to-back tonight. They will be back on the court. Rebecca, we have seen some inconsistencies from them early in the season. Why?
You know, this was a big question that we asked Becky Hammond before that game this past weekend, and there's a couple things. You look at what they returned. Oh, they have Chelsea Gray back, and she was great and unrivaled. They have Asia Wilson back, and she has been terrific. They have Jackie Young back, but you have to also look at the pieces that they lost. And it wasn't just Kelsey Plum. It was some major pieces off the bench. Alicia Clark being one of them. Tiff Hayes, we already talked about the connector, and Syd Colson. So that was a big piece of it. Asia Wilson having a great season, but she missed 3 games due to injury. Always look at how healthy a team's roster is. And Becky Hammond also talked about just the inconsistency with this team. They had a great first half against the Minnesota Lynx, as you see right there, and then struggled with turnovers in the second half. They had a great first half against Seattle, struggled in the second half, ended up losing that game. They were much more consistent in that win we saw against Indiana. But this is a very different Aces team. It's going to take some time, although it feels like they're finally kind of finding their groove a little bit.
I think there was a strong underestimation in how much they lost during offseason, just like Rebecca said, and the rest of the league got better. The rest of the league looked at the pieces of the puzzle and said, what do we need to fill? And they filled it. And so I'm looking at an Aces team where they're so reliant on A'ja Wilson being the consistent factor. There needs to be another consistent factor within the team. I was looking at Jewel Lloyd coming into it and wondering, can she be it? But for the past few years, we've seen a little bit of shakiness. A'ja Wilson just hit her 5,000th point and was the quickest person to do that.
Bravo.
And she would trade it all just for a team win. And so
I don't think she'd trade all of it.
Not all of
Maybe
it. Not all of
for a
it.
championship.
Another one. Literally, all the things, right, with A'ja. But she's so unselfish in that way. She makes people around her better, but she definitely needs better pieces around her. Well, not more consistent pieces around her that shows up night after night.
And look, the Aces were the ones hunted for so long, and that becomes a challenge when you are at the top of the league, and you're seeing that now. Okay, let's talk about the Valkyries, because the Bay is rocking, Valhalla is rocking, and we said at the beginning of the season, it was just going to be, what can we expect from this team? What have they shown you?
Well, we were just talking about kind of their pieces. The Golden State Valkyries have had 17 different players see game action this year.
Yeah.
It's insane. And they come out, they play with freedom, they take a lot of threes, they share the basketball really well. They've been very good on the defensive end of the floor. They're third in the league in opponents' field goal percentage. And when they played Indiana last week, Chloe Bibby, who was one of the players, so they have 4 players who are gone, right, with their international commitments. Chloe Bibby was playing in her first game. Letitia Amir was playing in her second game. Those 2 players combined to score more points than Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hall. No one would have expected that. It feels like they can just bring pieces in, pieces out, and they're still going to have some success. This is what I would say, though. A lot of those players, because they're in different roles, there's not like a robust scouting report on them.
Yep.
Will they be able to continue to have success in the second half of the season where other players and other coaches have a better feel for what Chloe Bibby can do or what some of these other players can do? Maybe they will, but they certainly have been a huge surprise and are a ton of fun to watch.
This is why the league needs to continue expanding. Exhibit A, the Valkyries right now. And they do have a ton of rookies, and you have talked about the fact that these rookies aren't necessarily right out of college. They're in the Bay Area. They're older, 20s and 30s, which is beneficial for them. And they play overseas, so they have a little bit of experience to play off of when they're over here.
That's one of the things that just is so interesting to me about the rookie class this year. Because typically when we talk about rookies, especially rookies who are contributing to their teams, we're thinking about the number 1, 2, 3 picks in that current year's draft. And you look at the rookies in the league this season. There are 15 rookies in the league this year who weren't drafted in 2025. Some of them are rookies who, were never drafted. Some were drafted a long time ago. And in particular, if you look at the Phoenix Mercury's roster and how they have filled it out, they have a bunch of players, and here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players who not only are rookies this year, but look at the ages. 29 years old, 29 years old. There are multiple rookies in the league this year that there's 5 of them that are at least 29 years old. One of them is 30 years old. So this is how teams have now decided to fill out their rosters, because even though these players have plenty of international experience and overseas experience, most importantly, what do they have? The rookie scale contract. And that way you can bring in a lot of players with experience, but they're on the cheap. And those are teams who have done it really well, both Golden State and Phoenix.
A lot of bang for your buck. We were very critical about Natalie's decision to integrate so many international players, especially because the newer fan is looking like my favorite collegiate player needs to be in the league. But she said, buy into my system. We didn't know that there was a system established, right? But those international players definitely have overseas experience on the pro level from as young as, 15 years old. And so they can rise to the occasion. They can play at a sold-out Valhalla arena. They can match up with the fiercest competition. Some of them are Olympians, but I'm just really pleased to see that, beyond what we saw as a case study with Rebecca Gardner a couple of years ago, that these older rookies are getting their chance to shine.
Natalie Nakase's system is systeming right now. It's working out there.
We're like, what's that
Golden
girl?
State.
And she was like, yeah, this one.
As far as rookies go, though, and the young ones, which ones or one has impressed
not
you?
The 29-year-olds?
Not the 29-year-olds, the one straight out of college that we really were eyeing coming into the W.
Millennials matter.
I know.
Tahina Pow from the Atlanta Dream step up to the plate. I am so pleased with her being so confident, just being ready to shoot with this Atlanta Dream Team. When you look at Atlanta, obviously we have Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, who are offensive threats, but whenever there's a slump or whenever they just need somebody to come off the bench and just be a spark, it's Tahina Powell. She delivers. And a lot of people were critical about Dawn Staley and being able to nurture guards going into the pro level, but if you ever want to look to see what she can do for a guard, Tahina Powell is a great example.
Yeah.
And how about Powell? You know, when she's her second to last year in college, she leads the nation in three-point field goal percentage. And then her last year, this past season, she had a little bit of a dip. Well, she hasn't had that dip yet here in the WNBA. I think she's the biggest surprise to me, how productive that she's been able to be. And one of the rookies that I've just enjoyed watching is Sanaya Rivers with the Connecticut Sun. Not only with the way she plays, because she just drips with potential. You watch her play, and she's having success, but at the same time, you're like, man, a few more years of seasoning, she's going to be really good. But I am delighted by her and Marina Mabry's content on social media.
Rebecca's out here scrolling.
One of my favorite things is when she just goes around with her camera on game day and does all of their fits, and just like her commentary. We got to talk with Sanaya a little bit her junior year in college when they were at the Final Four, and she just owned the room. When she was in with all the ESPN folks, like she just has such a big personality, and it's been fun to see her appreciated in a bigger way now in the WNBA, where people are really consuming her on social and appreciating the big personality that she has.
Absolutely. And quickly, we've talked about her potential, right? Her entire collegiate career, and we know that her ceiling, her limit doesn't exist. And I'm glad that you recognized it, Rebecca, because she's going to continue to climb. She's a great two-way player and has been showing up. Connecticut needs her.
So athletic, has those long arms. Like she has a perfect body for a basketball player, and as she just gets more seasoned and more seasoned, she's going to be really good for a long time.
Yeah, she's awesome just as a human being and a basketball player, and I think we would all agree. We all think we are, but friends with Sanaya Rivers, and hopefully maybe featured on we literally are best friends with her.
I need her to teach me to dance like she teaches me.
I got you, Rebecca.
All right, you got
me.
She's got you and you covered, because I certainly can't do that. Here they go.
There we go.
Y'all are so going to be in hip-hop class in the middle of Connecticut. We're already in Connecticut. We might as well go down the street.
Hey.
Marina is really dedicated. Look at the focus on her face. Yeah. My goodness.
God, we would look so much worse than this.
I want to know what the end goal was here. The jump squat is crazy.
Hey, by the way, we're talking rookies, and we didn't even talk Paige Beckers. We didn't talk Sony Citron. We didn't talk Kiki Iriefin, who are all competing for Rookie of the Year right now. But we got plenty of time to do that as the season continues. But we have to take a look now at what fans are searching for, presented by Google at this point. Searches for WNBA All-Star voting have seen an uptick 1,050% in the United States over the past week. Fan voting closes on Saturday, so get your votes in ASAP. So I'll toss to you two on this. Are you surprised, we'll phrase it this way, that Caitlin Clark and Napheesa Collier right now are the top two vote getters via the fan base?
Well, I'm not surprised. Well, especially with Caitlin, we know how she can mobilize the entire population to vote for her. But Napheesa is coming off of arguably like one of the most controversial Game 5s in finals history. And so people want to back her, and she's having a great season, a stellar season. But Caitlin, no, I'm not. I completely predicted this, that her Indiana Fever fans will get behind her and vote.
I think the only thing that would have been surprising if Caitlin Clark wasn't the number one overall vote getter. Not surprised at all that Napheesa's number two, but I also wouldn't have been surprised if A'ja Wilson was number two with the season that she is having as well, and the fan base that she brings to the table. But Napheesa Collier, absolutely. Right now, the front runner for WNBA MVP this year. Her team is in first place. Her numbers are extraordinary, in particular her efficiency this year. She's been pretty incredible. But it'll be interesting because in past years, the first set of votes that come in, the top will still.
You need to shake them up a little bit before.
But we'll see what the wave is like and how things change below those top two.
Yeah, voting ends on Saturday for the fans, and the top two vote getters are the captains, and then the captains select the teams, and it's a trickle-down effect from there. So submit those votes as soon as you can. We do have a jam-packed weekend of WNBA action tonight as well. You got a great slate. Sparks Fever, as we noted, Caitlin Clark out with a groin injury. Mystics Aces as well, both of those on Prime Video. When you look at this slate, Ari, what are you eyeing this weekend?
I'm eyeing Mystics Aces. I want to see that duo. We didn't get a chance to talk about Kiki Iriefin and Sony Citron. I mean, just Sonia's been such a consistent player on the Mystics team, and just being so young and being the one that you can rely on, just can't wait to see them ball out.
And coming off a huge win over Minnesota, I don't think a lot of people expected that to happen. The one that I had marked was Fever at Wings. I was looking forward to potential Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers going at it again for the first time in their pro careers. Unfortunately, it looks like Caitlin won't be a part of that. But I'm going to go with you on the Mystics Aces, just because both teams have won their last couple, and it'd be interesting if the Mystics could pull off another upset.
How about a little Liberty Mercury as well?
Liberty
a rematch from a few days ago, and the Mercury went into their building.
And all those old rookies.
All those old, one time for the millennials out here.
One time for the millennials
out here.
That's you too?
Yeah, you can be. You're in.
Got your honorary.
In. For the millennials over here, Rebecca Lobo, Ari Chambers.
She has the Spice Girls.
I'm Taylor Tannebaum. Thanks so much for watching WNBA Hoop Streams presented by Google. We'll see you next week for the Commissioner's Cup Championship.